Hey guys, before the video gets started, I wanted to make just a couple of short announcements. The first one being the annual art and story contest will begin October 1st through the 31st. So you can submit your art and or stories, you can do both if you want, throughout the month of October, and a winner will be chosen by the viewers. Number 2, as of right now, Serial Killer Saturdays will no longer be on the channel, and that is because YouTube absolutely hates them. So if I do continue to do them, they will either be in a podcast or they'll become a Patreon-only feature, but nothing has been decided about that. And finally, I wanted to announce that I have just been accepted into the Evil Idol 2019 voiceover competition. Now, I fully expect to get my butt handed to me in this competition. However, I feel it would be great exposure for the channel, and the more the channel grows, the more it means you will get consistent uploads and more content. So when the competition starts, I will need all of you, as it depends on viewer votes by thumbs up or thumbs downs. As I learn more about when the audio will be posted, I will be sure to share it with you. Keep in mind, I post all announcements on my community tab on my channel, right here on YouTube. So make sure you check that out for all upcoming videos and events. Thank you for your time, and now on with the video. You know, I've tried to warn you all in several previous videos about the dangers of playing with Ouija boards. But I guess you just can't seem to stay away, can you? This is obvious by the enormous amount of people who have recently had terrifying experiences with Ouija boards. Enjoy. I believe that Zozo demon has attached itself to me. I always feel fear or sadness, and I tend to get very tired quickly. As time passes, the demon is getting more physical, and I hear him occasionally. I innocently made contact with the Zozo demon through a Ouija board last year while at a friend's house. The session was nothing special or dramatic, but the name that appeared on the board that night was one that has haunted me ever since. I've always been into photography, taking pictures of close friends and family. However, over the past year, the demon has taken that away from me. I started noticing that after the session, anyone who I would care about, who I would take a recent photo of, would be affected by Zozo. As weird as it may seem, numerous people would ask me about my Zozo experience only after I take their pictures, even though they had no previous knowledge of me even using a Ouija board or Zozo. The demon would also distort my photos. Now, I have photos where you can see a few different demons. Did I open a portal to hell? I feel now that I am always being watched, and I am in constant fear. Whenever I try to get help regarding this problem, or I get to having answers on how to rid myself of it, the demon gets mad and destroys my photos by poltergeist activity. I do believe in God. I love him, and I put crosses around everywhere. However, I find the crosses torn to pieces after placing them on the wall. And sometimes I would even find scratch marks on the crosses themselves. I recently did an EVP session in my house to see if I could document the activity, or if I was simply going insane. When I asked Zozo, "What's your purpose for being here?" the response I got on the audio recorder was, "Soul Taker." I still have not gotten rid of him, and he's getting more noticeable. I realize they feed off fear, but it's hard not to be scared. One night, me and my 3 other friends decided to play with the Ouija board at 11 p.m. After playing with the board for an hour, we ended up talking to something that called itself Hugh. After it spelled out its name, it continually spelled out the letters E-D-F-E over and over. We thought we were talking to Hugh for over an hour, but all 3 seemed to have lost time. We all woke up the next morning wondering where the night had went. Out of curiosity, we decided to try to contact Hugh for the next 4 days. Till this day, I don't know if it was out of curiosity or if it was an addiction. On each day after every unsuccessful attempt to contact Hugh, we would start fighting with each other and openly wishing each other dead. However, we would always regroup and try to contact it. On the last night, one of my friends got possessed while playing with the board. When my friend became possessed, I tried to get rid of the planchette. However, my possessed friend grabbed my wrists, and all I can remember is that her pupils were massive and her voice was terrifying. It was not hers. The following day, my friend blacked out and had Zozo carved into her arm. It's been about a week now. Zozo was carved in my friend's arm. The cut keeps getting deeper and deeper by the hour. The handwriting is amazingly detailed. My boyfriend, unaware of the Ouija board incidents, called me last night crying on the phone, saying that he had a dream where he witnessed all 3 of my friends' death and mine, in which we all killed ourselves, one after the other. I recently just split up with my girlfriend over something that is going on regarding an experience she had on a Ouija board. She believes that the demon Zozo was haunting her ever since she played a Ouija board 3 years ago. She believes that by telling me about her experience, this caused her to miscarry our baby. She recently has been having dreams of the demon, in which the demon tells her that he took the soul of her child, and they are causing her to be stranger every passing day. The last time I saw her, I was going to visit her when I heard noises outside of the house. I rushed in through the front door and discovered her sitting Indian style facing me. I ran up to her and barely lifted her head as it was facing down. And when I lifted her up, I noticed that her eyes were black. Black as the sky with no moon. She then said to me in a demonic voice, "What do you want?" Being scared out of my mind, I ran to the nearest room and locked the door. She was only 95 pounds, but I knew that wasn't her, but something far more sinister. As I stood behind and locked the door wondering what to do, I heard a loud thud and 2 normal voices yelling, "Hello." It turned out to be her younger sister and mother. Soon after, I opened the door to find them standing over my ex-girlfriend. 2 cops came beating on the door asking for me. They eventually took my ex to the hospital, only to find nothing wrong with her. Last week she tried to contact me, but I'm afraid to talk to her because I don't know if she's possibly still possessed by Zozo. This starts off during my childhood. I probably started playing with and creating homemade Ouija boards around 8 or 9 years old. I didn't know enough about them, but was fascinated to the core. My older sister also played with the Ouija board, which may be another reason why I was so drawn to them. My sister played with the Ouija board in her room, and over time, the Ouija board sessions revealed things that we could never know at the time, and we felt that by playing with the board, that we had the power to make everything or anything happen. Ghosts, demons, hauntings, you name it. We felt as if the board and the entity Zozo that we were in contact with were giving us power. As we played more and more with the board, things became more and more intense. One day, we saw objects move. They levitated across the room. We felt a weird sense of empowerment from the demon, which led us to never say goodbye, and we began to invoke other spirits. Several months later, we started to notice dark figures and have things fly at us. The shadow figures that I saw terrorized my sister so much that she could no longer stay in her room alone. When I moved into my sister's room, around 10, I became very depressed. Hoarding became an issue along with bugs and mice. The room looked like a plague, and my parents were seemingly unaware why it was like this. Trash built up to my knees within a few months, and I turned into a sloth. My sister and I noticed that during this time, when Zozo was tormenting us, I would go months of waking up backwards and naked. I knew I went to sleep with clothes on and facing one direction, but I would wake up a completely different way. The pillows in our room would get hot in spots, and we would constantly experience shadow figures that would perch themselves next to me on the bed. I recall one night when I had an extremely vivid nightmare that involved a demon similar to the one that was tormenting me, since I had started playing with the board. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. and telling the shadows to leave. As I was doing so, I was physically pushed by the shadow figure. And I will never forget the smell of the wretched demon. Burnt sulfur. I knew at that point I had to stop playing with the board and anything in the occult. To this day, I always bless the ground and the building that I sleep in, and I have not mentioned my past interactions with Zozo until now. That was 2005. Zozo is an extremely dangerous demon. This is a warning. I have been haunted by Zozo my entire life, and now it seems to be haunting my daughter. I have come into contact with this demon every time I ever played with a Ouija board. In July of 2017, myself and 2 of my friends played Ouija for the first time. Put our hands on the planchette. We started to get rapid figure eights. At first, I thought this was my friend moving the board, but soon it spelled out the word Zozo. Well, as soon as that was answered, the planchette turned straight toward me, and all of a sudden, I felt a strong force vibration, and it flew off the board and hit me in the face. We immediately closed it out and went out. I was extremely shaken and scared. And since then, I have had very bad anxiety, depression, and it seems to be worsening every day. I'm here to report my sighting of Zozo, or rather, communication. 2 weeks ago, I was shopping with my friend at an antique store when we saw an old Ouija board that we thought would be fun to buy and play with one night. However, as soon as we got the board, we felt the need to immediately go home and play with the new board. We started playing with the board and asked if it could tell us its name. It replied with Zozo. Besides spelling its name over and over again, the demon Zozo would also put the planchette into a figure 8 until my friend got a bloody nose and I received a headache. And now I'm scared that we suffered and paid the price for playing with the Ouija board at the hands of Zozo, and feel he is always watching me. just last night I laid on my pillow and saw demonic eyes that stared at me before disappearing into the night. I have had a demonic attachment that has spanned decades, 2008 being the worst year, stemming from a childhood incident involving my mother and a Ouija board. This experience seemed to be amplified by my second mistake in 2008, which involved the mishandling of a Ouija board and missing all the warning signs. In short, my ex-girlfriend used to practice occult. I found the board during cleaning, and the short version of events was she came rushing home after I messed up and played with the board. She knew the exact time I burnt the board and ran to the bedroom hiding spot before I could even get in a word. Since then, it keeps coming back for me. Sometimes once a year, sometimes less. I can keep it at bay with sage and prayer, admit my sins and ask for forgiveness. Former roommates and past landlords have all complained of exactly what I have witnessed. No matter how many times I move, it keeps coming back. I know the name because I saw it written over and over and over among her items. Zozo, 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 Zozo. Even before she shot herself years later, I was asked by others if she was possessed. I can always feel its return. It always starts with strange sounds of the roof I ignore. After so many months, it somehow creeps into the place, and the feeling of being watched. If I don't deal with it right away, it becomes stronger, to the point it can start to harm other random people. I know it's only a matter of time before it comes back again. Maybe a year, months, a day. Now, I'm a girl that lives in Italy, and recently, I've been talking with Zozo every day. Before Zozo, I talked with another spirit, Vaz. Vaz said that he's an evil spirit, and that he was with me all the time. I was quiet because Vaz said that he was with me to protect me. A day me and my friend tried to do the Ouija board together. We talked with Vaz for a long time, and when we finished, my friends wanted to try to talk with her guardian demon. She drew his seal and started the session with the Ouija board alone because I felt very bad and my mother was tired. She started the session and started to talk about a spirit that said his name was Zuzu. Nothing is ever as it seems, or sometimes it is. I was very scared because I know who Zuzu is. She finished the session and went away from that place. Another day, one of my friends called me and said that she talked with Zozo alone. I was so scared and I asked Vaz if he could go to my friend's house. He told me he would. Went there after I asked Vaz about my friend. But Zozo started to talk with me. He said that he was so curious and he wanted to know why I sent Vaz to my friend's house. After that day, Zozo is all that comes through on my Ouija board. Zozo sometimes is gentle with me, tells me that it loves me. I don't know what to think about Zozo. He says he's a spirit and not a demon. He says he's very big and very powerful, and that he's good to me. It makes me want to talk to Zozo every day. I have always been intrigued by Ouija boards. I got one for my birthday, so I tested it out with my brother and his friend. When we started, we contacted some negative spirits. I had played with the board previously, but nothing terrible occurred. For some reason, I felt the chances of getting Zozo was unlikely. I remember my brother's friend and I decided to play with the Ouija board alone one day. To our surprise, we contacted a good spirit named Angel. She was nice. She told jokes and it was all fun and games. Then she left, and someone named Death said she had to leave to go to heaven real quick. When she came back, she told us she had gone to heaven with the help of Mama. She said Mama is a demon, but that they're nice. As we continued to play, I felt as though I was being befriended by Angel. However, during the session, we were constantly interrupted by Zozo. I would say, "What's your name?" and it would respond with Z-O, Z-O. I knew this wasn't good. I communicated with this so-called Zozo until Angel came back. When she came back, she spelled out R-U-N. I said, "Why?" She spelled out Z-O-Z-O. I wasn't scared for myself, but I was scared for Angel. I asked her where she was, and she spelled out, "Here, go, now." I was quite scared, but I knew I had to help Angel. She said she would be all right. Before this, the planchette flew off the board numerous times. I had it on video once. The player closest to the camera did not move it. There was so much force on it, and my fingers began to feel as if they were being smashed. Angel moved the cursor to goodbye. She told us not to contact her the rest of the night, which I obeyed, and I am waiting to contact her again tonight. When I was 11 years old, my mother got me a Ouija board for my birthday, and for many, many years, I came into contact with Zozo the demon. I had to see a psychiatrist because of it. I've been through depression, sexual assault, which they call rape, drug addiction in my life. I've overcame it all, but still experience a lot of things because of that Ouija board. I'm 34 years old now and have no idea what demons were all about until I saw an episode of Ghost Adventures. I saw that episode, and it gave me the chills through my entire body, because I had no idea that Zozo, the demon, was real. I thought it was just an entity messing with me on the Ouija board, and I did not know how severe it was. The first time my little sister played with the Ouija board, she played with her friends Cody, Leek, Jacob, and Rusty. The first name she got was a demon named Mama. Mama didn't contact her again until me and her played together again. And as we played, the Ouija board Mama told us that she was trying to protect us. She predicted a few things, so we kept talking to this person Mama. In fact, we called for Mama on it more than once, and each time this thing came to us. It tried and almost succeeded in possessing my sister. Then one night we took the Ouija board to an abandoned house with a couple of our friends and used it there. We came in contact with a demon that said it had been attached to my friend's family for generations. Later that night we took the board and played it at my home again. And just like every other time, we got Mama. Mama told us in 3 months the demon we contacted in that house would hunt us down. And after that date, my sister would be sexually assaulted. Later told us that the rape was in connection to the person she played the Ouija board with first, who was her first love. We played the Ouija, and were told by a dead friend of my sister's that Mama's real name was Zozo. We didn't know who Zozo was, so we looked it up, and instantly pulled up this page. We looked through it and found out why the Ouija was being so weird. Then it told us to contact you. I recently bought a Ouija board, and I feel like I used proper precaution when using it. I put a crystal quartz on each side and black onyx on the other. I light a white and black candle, each set with a corresponding crystal, smudged the board with Palo Santo wood. Tonight, my fiancé and I were contacted by a supposed demon named Zosa. The only message we received that we allowed before saying goodbye was hate. Then, a loud, buzzing stink bug got into the room somehow. The windows weren't open. The door was shut. I asked the presence of an archangel to rid this space of any demonic or negative presence. It was then when a lightning bug made its presence known. Again, I'm not sure how either insect was able to get into the room. We continued on with the board again and began speaking with a spirit that said it's Norse spirit, and it had removed Zosa. The part that had me concerned was that we were having a really good conversation with the Norse spirit. But then, the planchette really quickly spelled mom again and again. I asked if my mother was present. I'm adopted, and I refer to my biological mom as mom and my adopted mother as mother. The board responded with dead, then mom. I asked if my mom had died, and it said yes. Not to be repetitive, it said mom a lot. This is the session that I had. I said, if you're my mom, spell your first name correctly. And it did. I asked, where do you live? It said the correct place, correct favorite color. I asked it to tell me something you and only you and I know. It told me about when I went to visit her. I asked if it had a message for me. I asked, do you have a message for me? And the board kept spelling out mom and tarot. I went on to ask, do you have anything else you want to tell me? And the board spelled out, sorry. I asked, what are you sorry for? Dying. I asked, how did you die? The board spelled out murdered. And that was when I said goodbye. This incident occurred about 13 years ago when I was 15 in a city near Perth, Australia. At the time, several strange things were happening, which I believe had to do with the seance my friend and I had played around with. Nothing very exciting happened during the seance, and to be honest, I thought my friend was pushing the glass and never thought much of it. Until I began waking up at 3:15 a.m. every morning with a genuine sensation of complete terror. I would lie awake in bed with the covers over my head as I had a strange sensation of being watched and was afraid of what was in my room with me. I would lie there like that until the sun came up. I was always terrified of looking in a certain direction, and upon inspection, I found the glass which had been used in the seance. This took me by surprise, as the glass had been disposed of, so I was certain that the glass was the reason for my sleepless nights. I once again disposed of the glass. However, I kept experiencing the same feelings, and once again, upon inspection, came across the same glass that I had again thrown in the garbage twice. This time I was determined to get rid of it, so I took it outside and smashed it on the ground. But I continued waking at 3:15 a.m. to the minute every night without fail, and I started seeing strange dark shadows. The shadows started as perfect black balls, which would circle my room, then seemed to disappear through my window. I put this off to paranoia and lack of sleep, and simply tried to ignore it and go back to sleep, still with my head under the covers. Other people started noticing the shadow too, and at normal waking hours, saying that the end of the house where my room was seemed a bit creepy. Gradually, the shadows seemed to get bigger, but I continued to ignore them. Until one night, the family dog woke me again at 3:15 a.m. He was sitting next to my bed and making a crying sound. I figured he needed to go outside, so I got up, let him outside. As soon as I was back in bed, the dog was at my window, squeaking and carrying on. So I got back up and let him back inside. The dog followed me to my room and once again sat by my bed whimpering. I then took him back outside, and even though he sat at my window still crying, I made him stay out there for a bit because I didn't want him coming back in and waking me up. Eventually I gave in and let the dog back inside. The bathroom light was on, letting light flood the hallway as I walked back to my room. This is where the dog started growling. I moved closer to the bathroom door so the dog could see it was me. I was worried he was growling at my shadow. I called him up to me as he was still growling and said, "Hey, it's only me. What's the matter?" The dog walked slowly toward me, still growling, and sat next to my leg, growling at something behind me. In a flash, my thoughts raced to, "Oh my God, there's someone in the house," and turned around and started running down the hallway. What I saw was something that has never left my mind, and something no one has ever believed when I've told them. I saw what seemed like an enormous bird. It had huge outstretched wings that would have touched the roof and almost the floor. Its body ended where the wings did, and neither seemed to touch the ground. As it followed me down the hallway, the wings stayed outstretched, and it seemed to glide as it moved. I did notice a small head in between the wings, but no features that I recall. And the head seemed hooded rather than round, and connected to the body without a neck. The creature seemed more shadow than of flesh, and as much as I've tried to put it down to my own shadow, I am certain that what I experienced and saw was real, and could have in no way been my own shadow. I remember mostly the wings, and the enormity of them as they towered over me, and how it moved as it followed after me, until I slipped into another room. I'm not sure what happened to it after this, but my sister, who was older and didn't believe in anything paranormal, had some strange experiences following a black shadow and some kind of sleep paralysis, where she was surrounded by a bunch of people laughing at her as the black shadow circled over top. So we're outside smoking. I'm looking into the forest, sweating balls in fear, thinking I'm going to see a fucking demon face in the branches or something. Eventually we relax, but then my friend, mid-sentence, her face drops and goes white and she says, fuck, get inside now." I toss my cigarette and jump in the window. We close the blinds. We're breathing super heavy. I'm like, what the hell happened? She said that behind me in the distance, there was an enormous 100-foot tall tree. There was no wind. I remember this because I was watching my cigarette smoke go directly up, and I was blowing perfect O's without them disappearing. She says the tree was still. Then suddenly the entire tree, including the trunk, moved back and forth, then went perfectly still again. I didn't believe her, but we both freaked out regardless. We went to sit back down at the Ouija board. We put our fingers on it, and it asked us, "Did you see it?" My sister and I messed around with a Ouija board a few times when we were teenagers. Every time we used the board, we seemed to communicate with the same spirit named Ed, who constantly threatened our younger brother during the sessions, even though our brother was only 4 or 5 years old at the time and was nowhere near us. It scared us so much we threw out the board, never mentioned a word of this to our brother. Years later, our brother brought home a friend's Ouija board. After he and a friend used the board a few times, he told us he was a little freaked out because a spirit named Ed kept threatening him. This is when we freaked out, told our mother, who then banned Ouija boards from our house after the incident. My fiance at the time and I were sitting on my bed with an old board that a friend found on the side of the road. We asked who was with us, and it said Mo. I asked, "Are you a demon, spirit, or angel?" He said, "Demon by your creation." We were a bit freaked out, but we kept going. We asked more simple questions like, "How many are with you?" He replied, 7. "What is your favorite poster that I have?" It replied, "Bloody Mess." I pointed at a kiss photo I had of Gene Simmons with his tongue out while blood was everywhere in and around his mouth. "This one?" I asked. Its reply was yes. After a few more questions, I asked him to move my skeleton heads on my TV, because we wanted to know if this was fake or not. Mo replied, "Close eyes." After a few seconds went by, all of the skeleton heads were facing us. How could that be faked? We were the only two in my room at the time, all the while sitting close to one another. When I was about 16, I found an old school Ouija at a thrift store. It was made of real wood, not paper like they are now. It was thin, but wood, like balsa, I think. I was intrigued with it, so I took it home. Me and a friend were playing with it, but nothing was happening. So we just gave up and left it on the bed, went out for snacks. Keep in mind there was no window open, no random draft, no air conditioning at the time, no fan, nothing that could have caused this, but when we came back in with snacks and pop, the board was working on its own. The planchette was traveling all over the board, and the word it was spelling out was foul. For a minute we just stood there and watched it spelling out a word several times. Then my friend scooped it up, broke it. We covered it with salt and got rid of it in a safe place. A few years ago, my friends decided to try this out with a group of guys. We were in the 12th grade at the time. My group of girls had messed around with a Ouija board before, to varying degrees of success. Well, this time, it was my hands on the planchette with my other friend. This thing was moving crazy fast, faster than I'd ever seen, and seemed to be getting quite agitated by the group of guys we were with who were joking around and not taking it seriously. It essentially told them to shut up and stop talking. I told the guys to seriously, stop being rude. I'm kind of freaked out. Because I was getting nervous, one of the guys took over. He was a bit more serious about it. Almost immediately, the thing spelled out, "Don't open the door." Well, we were all in the basement, and there was only one door. So we all, at the same time, looked over at the door nervously. Because I was getting anxious, I took the blanket and kind of hid my face. Immediately, it spelled out, "Don't hide from me." Everyone was freaked out. The guy who had his hands on the planchette literally started to cry. He wanted to take his hands off, but we have this rule that you don't take your hands off until you say goodbye. Everyone wanted to stop, but it took about 10 minutes of asking stupid questions until the thing finally slid to goodbye. Some of the guys speculated afterwards that it meant don't open the metaphorical door of the spiritual world. The reason being is, we told them to never ask for a sign, or it kind of lets the spirits roam free outside of the board. Before that guy took over, they kept asking for a sign, only for me to cut them off mid-sentence and tell them to knock it off. So this made some sense. I'm from Edinburgh, and it is famous for its underground haunted city. I, along with a friend, spent the night down there. Creepy as hell. One of the activities we did was a Ouija board. Myself and my friend sat down to play, and all was going well. The usual describing who was here apparently haunting the place, etc. This continued for about a half an hour, when I kindly asked the board if I could leave. I was granted a yes. Around 10 minutes after me, my friend asked to leave and was promptly told no. This entity would not let her leave. The movements on the board then got faster and more erratic, and the temperature in the room plummeted. Only when several people in the room started crying did this entity let everyone leave. This was by far one of the most bizarre and scariest things I have ever witnessed. Safe to say, I've never gone near one again. Seems these people may have learned their lesson the hard way, so that you don't have to. So, when you get the temptation to contact the other side, maybe choose another door to open, because this one is meant to stay closed. Besides, you're smarter than that, aren't you? If you aren't, send me an email. Oh, and if you've made it this far in the video, I'd like you to leave 3 ghost emojis in the comments section so I can see who's really listening to the videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.